What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about Ill. If you guys remember this game, and many people know it far better than me, this game has been in development an incredibly long time. I actually took the time today to go back, and I saw a lot of people saying, oh, I remember seeing like kind of small little slices of this game, right, going back 3-4 years ago. I thought, what are they talking about when they say stuff like that? And I went back, and it is really cool to see the evolution and to also see how things remain so similar. Right, like you see where it's like the very tall, scary looking people that are like over the dismembered body, and they see you and they come. You're shooting them in the hallway, and one of them throws something at you. And it's interesting because like those people, the design has been changed, from then to now. It's the somewhat similar scene but different. But like the idea of them whipping things at you still actually remains. So it's really cool to see what I think many people believe to be cool ideas and premises, but then actually come together and actually become a game. Right now, we still don't have a release, and I still feel like the game might be further away than one might think, just because, you put things together. I think they did a really good job in the trailer. There was also a gameplay trailer that came out around the exact same time. Game looks incredible. I mean, it really looks like the best of Resident Evil mixed with Outlast. I think those are probably, when it comes, and they've talked about, puzzle solving and upgrading things and resource management. And then you think about the enemy types and what they look like and the size difference and kind of their build difference versus you. There's more of the Outlast. It's like Outlast if you were able to actually defend yourself in those situations, right? Looks super, super cool. But I wanted to talk about, I wanted to do that firstly, just to say, hey, I'm all caught up. And while it looks terrifying, I still want to give it a chance. I am a pretty big baby. I'm more of a baby towards horror films than horror games, but I stood in that hallway in PT for far too long, okay? There are some games that just took me a while, but I have played scary games before, and I've enjoyed them as much as you can. I wanted to just look at this. Ill developer Q&A, monsters, horror inspirations, gameplay mechanics, and more. And this is kind of where they just break down. To be honest, a lot of this is what we've seen kind of broken, and they're just combining it all. So they say Ill is a story-driven action horror game with visceral visuals, gruesome moments, interesting inspiration, exploration, and wild ideas, a good mix of survival horror elements and first-person 3D action. We're working to balance the parts where players are blanking their pants from fright with parts where players are screaming because they're enjoying the intense action, shooting mechanics, and dismemberment. And of course, that was that last part, really big part of what they showed at the trailer, just kind of shooting their legs and having them drop. And by the way, I don't even know what I'm allowed to show. It feels like you Google search this and you look it up, and a lot of things are age restricted. It really is a game I feel like teetering on the edge of being like M rating, and then actually what comes after M, which we won't go there because that gets a lot of people in trouble, really, if you do that. So they talk about even the story that they've kept mainly secret so far, but they do say it's a personal story of the main protagonist. The story is deeply interconnected with what is happening in the world. Broadly speaking, the world will feel isolated and hopeless, and we want players to feel how dark the mood is. I hope the audience will sympathize with the main character and his personal motivation. Then they say the name Ill does mean something. They wanted to make a short, striking name that when you write it, it looks like a logo. The world represents something horrible, something sick, something cursed. Also reflects the monsters. I'm not going to spoil our monsters' origins, but there's going to be cool interconnection between the name and the story of the game. Then they talk about designing of monsters and where the inspiration comes from, horror films of the 70s to 90s, stuff that was practical effects, but with smart lighting and strong direction. When they say in games, the inspiration is Half-Life 2, Silent Hill, and Resident Evil. And they talk about how they kind of come up with it. Maybe you see an inspiration and you try to make a concept based off of that, and sometimes they actually had to throw away things because that didn't actually work inside the game itself. Then they talk about that gameplay. So you use resources, find and upgrade weapons. You can use your resources to craft and update weapons. You'll manage your inventory because resources are limited. There's intense encounters, sometimes with single enemies, small group, but also cool moments where you fight waves of enemies and bosses, which we've seen in the trailer, kind of snippets of large amounts of enemy. Well, actually, we've seen literally all of that. One enemy, kind of a grouping, then a massive wave, and then what seems to be a couple different boss fights, throughout the whole thing. They also say, for example, if you fix electricity in an area, the environment changes. Things might be dark somewhere else. We want the setting to be believable and realistic. And then they kind of talk about classic weapons, shotgun, AK-47, but there will be some fun crafty weapons and a lot of melee weapons as well. And that's about it. Super cool. I mean, again, I'm getting more and more into this thing. At the end of the day, I don't even know if the game comes out, which I think it would come out, and if I were to get the game, which I do think I would get the game, I could not promise that I would make my way all the way through it. I think that's the promise I'm making myself, is to not promise that to people. But it does look really amazing. It definitely, like, it caught me when they showed that trailer at Summer Game Fest. I remember being disgusted and at the same time intrigued, and I think that's probably the entire point of why they show it. It has that eye-catching nature that, by the way, is just flat out not going to work with some people, but with other people, this is the game of their dreams. And like I said, just to kind of give that respect there, where this has been a game, in the works, and you see it with games like this. There's games in the same kind of like AA indie kind of space, like kind of crossing over those two mediums, and you'll see a lot with those games that you can see where they come from. There's oftentimes these almost developer diaries and just kind of testing out things 4, 5, 6 years ago. And I mean, Expedition 33 even, right, which kind of falls in that AA, AAA kind of space. You can go back 5, 6, 7 years ago and see just some of the earliest stuff. It's just really cool when you see that stuff, and I mean, you got a 50-50. It either comes together or it literally stays there and it never becomes something. And think about all the games that you lost, in that stage. But when games do make it out of that stage, you get not saying this is the same as Expedition. I don't think it will be, but just to see it kind of come to fruition is super, super cool. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.